Sodium is in almost everything that we eat. Again, it's used as a preservative, as a additive to our food, the other to make it taste a little bit better. But the problem with that is a lot of people have become accustomed to salty food, and we crave salty food. But again, the problem is eating too much of it. We've become kind of a generation that thrives on salty snacks, salty foods, and um, kind of the recommendations from the CDC, WHO, and also USDA is that we need to start limiting or reducing the amount of salt that we consume each day.
When you consume sodium, it creates an osmotic gradient in your bloodstream, and the amount of fluid that you have in the bloodstream increases and puts more pressure on the vessel walls, and that creates hypertension, which leads to a lot of different kinds of side effects, such as heart disease and stroke.
Our culture revolves around food. Everything that we do in day to day life and every major celebration revolves around food. Of course, there's a great need for everyone to decrease the amount of salt that they eat from not only processed foods but also adding in salt to foods that are already prepared for them.
Usually, it's the doctor who will prescribe to us how much sodium, but basically 2 to 5 milligram a day is enough for us. Yeah. And when we use a healthy plate, fruits, the grains, the vegetable, protein, dairy product, the amount that we give is enough. So we are sure that they are not having too much sodium. Finally, always read the labels because the nutrition component is indicated. But basically, if we follow the food guide, we are on the right direction.
There are different kinds of spices that you can put in food, and it's basically a matter of personal taste. You sort of experiment with what you like in the food. Even if you have to put salt, you can reduce salt over time that you put in cooking. You can reduce the salt that you put at the table. A lot of people salt their food before they even taste it, and people need to get in the habit of tasting the food before salt shaking.
The NCD, they have also a nutrition component. Then the clinics of the doctors, they have also. Hospital, they have their own dietitian. SDA, they have also their own doctors who prescribe how much sodium should be taken by their patient, and so they have also their nutritionist dietitian.
Some tips for salt reduction that you can take is, of course, to think fresh. Eat foods that are fresh. Fresh fruits and vegetables are naturally low in sodium. You can also stay away from a lot of processed or packaged foods. So essentially going back to the way things were before, taking steps to sit your family down at the table and really enjoy a home cooked meal. A lot of what adults eat is what has been given to them as a child, so they become accustomed to eating certain foods. And if these foods are very salty, then they grow up craving salty food and wanting salty food.
Taste it. It's pretty good.
That's kind of where we stand today, is tons of salt that we consume, and all attributed to the way that we eat, and the way we eat is because of, I guess, our culture.
Salt is a preservative, and there's other forms of sodium in the cultural way that food is prepared, in the packaged foods, and even in some of the restaurant foods.
We need to start limiting or reducing the amount of salt that we consume each day by finding out how adults can change the way they eat, but also looking at ways to help kids understand why salt reduction is important, so that when they become adults, they're not at risk for things like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and everything else.